Hi, kindergartners. Welcome back for chapter 21 of The Wizard of Oz. When we left in chapter 20, our friends, Dorothy, the Tin Woodman, the Lion and the Scarecrow, and of course Toto, just left the little China country. So we're sort of entering the part of the book, like I said, or we're in the part of the book that's not in the movie. So we kind of have to use our imagination and go off of pictures. And like the China country, there were a few pictures in this storybook, but there were none in our picture book. So it's always kind of interesting what illustrators and authors decide to put in and what they decide to put in the movie. And apparently they didn't feel like that was an important chapter in the book. So now we're moving on to chapter 21, which is called The Lion Becomes the King of Beasts. One of my favorite chapters, but again, one that is not in the movie. All right, here we go. After climbing down from the China Wall, the travelers found themselves in a very disagreeable country, full of bogs and marshes and covered with tall, rank grass. It was difficult to walk far without falling into muddy holes, for the grass was so thick that it hid them from sight. However, by carefully picking their way, they got safely along until they reached solid ground. But here, the country seemed wilder than ever. And after a long and tiresome walk through the underbrush, they entered another forest, where the trees were bigger and older than any they had ever seen. "Why, this forest is perfectly delightful," declared the lion, looking around him with joy. "Never have I seen more beautiful place." "It seems gloomy," said the Scarecrow. "Oh, not a bit," answered the lion. "I should like to live here all my life. See how soft the dried leaves are under your feet, and how rich and green the moss is that clings to the old trees. Oh, surely no wild beast could wish for a more pleasanter home." "Well, what if there are wild beasts in the forest now?" said Dorothy. "Oh, I suppose there are," returned the lion, "but I don't see any of them about." They walked through the forest until it became too dark to go any farther. Dorothy and Toto and the lion lay down to sleep, while the woodman and the Scarecrow kept watch over them as usual. When morning came, they started again. Before they had gone far, they heard a low rumble, as of the growling of many wild animals. Toto whimpered a little, but none of the others were frightened, and they kept along the well-trodden path until they came to an opening in the wood, in which were gathered hundreds of beasts of every variety. There were tigers and elephants and bears and wolves and foxes and all the other animals from the animal kingdom. And for a moment, Dorothy was afraid. But the lion explained that the animals were holding a meeting, and he judged by their snarling and growling that they were in great trouble. Now, on Earth, where we live, all of those animals don't live in the same habitat. So elephants don't live in the same place that bears live. And so it's kind of interesting that in Oz, all the wild animals kind of can come together for a meeting. That wouldn't happen, obviously, on planet Earth. We have different animals that live in different places. This is also, besides the lion, the first real type of animals we've really heard of, except for those that the Wicked Witch had. But we haven't really come in contact with any other animals. They've all been sort of mysterious. So let's see what happens. As he spoke, several of the beasts caught sight of him, and at once the great assemblage hushed as if by magic. The biggest of the tigers came up to the lion and bowed, saying, "Welcome, O King of Beasts. You have come in good time to fight our enemy and bring peace to all the animals of the forest once more." "What is your trouble?" asked the lion quietly. "We are all threatened," answered the tiger, "by a fierce enemy which has come into the forest. It's a tremendous monster, like a giant spider with a body as big as an elephant and legs as long as tree trunks. It has 8 long legs And as the monster crawls through the forest, he seizes an animal with one leg and drags it into his mouth, where he eats it like a spider eats a fly. Not one of us is safe while this fierce creature is alive, and we've called a meeting to decide how to take care of ourselves when you came here among us. The lion thought for a moment. Are there any other lions in this forest? He asked. No, there were some, but the monster ate them all. And besides, they were none of them nearly so large and brave as you. Now, if I put an end to your enemy, will you bow down to me and obey me as king of the forest? Inquired our lion. We'll do that greatly, returned the tiger, and all the other beasts roared with a mighty roar. Yes, we will. Well, then where is this great spider of yours now? Asked the lion. Yonder, among the oak trees, said the tiger, pointing with his forefoot. Take good care of these friends of mine, said the lion. I will go at once to fight the monster. He bade his comrades goodbye and marched proudly away to do battle with the enemy. The great spider was lying asleep when the lion found him, and it looked so ugly that the lion turned up his nose in disgust. Its legs were as long as the tiger had said, and its body was covered with thick, coarse hair, black hair. It had a great mouth with a row of sharp teeth a foot long. But its head was joined to the pudgy body by a neck as slender as a wasp's waist. So you have to imagine this creature. Every year kids say, Mrs. McGee, show us the picture. There isn't one, because the writer of this book, the author, wanted you to imagine it in your head. So this spider has this giant elephant body and this giant head, but its neck, instead of being the right size like our neck is, attaching our head to our body, its neck of this giant beast is only itty bitty. So strange. So are you thinking what the lion might be doing? Come up with a plan in your head. The great spider was lying asleep when the lion found him. He looked so ugly. Oh, sorry, I read that part. Its head was joined to the pudgy body by the neck as slender as the wasp's waist. This gave the lion a hint of the best way to attack this creature. And as he knew it was easier to fight it asleep than awake, he gave a great spring and landed directly on the monster's back. Then, taking one blow of his heavy paw, all armed with sharp claws, he knocked the spider's head right off its body. Jumping down, he watched it until its long legs stopped wiggling, and he knew it was quite dead. The lion went back to the opening where the beasts of the forest were waiting for him and said proudly, "You need fear your enemy no longer. He is gone." Then the beasts bowed down to the lion as their king, and he promised to come back and rule over them as soon as Dorothy was safely on her way to Kansas. So again, I don't believe that there's a picture in this book for you guys to see. And no, there's not. And now we know that all the three characters have now taken over different parts of Oz. So we know that the two wicked witches are gone. They live in the east and the west. And the wizard is now gone. So to take their place, we now have some rulers of our own. Remember, in the land of the Wicked Witch, where the Winkies were, they decided that they loved the Tin Man. They loved how his heart was so gentle and kind, and they wanted him to be the leader. So he gets to go back to the country of the West the yellow area on your map, and he gets to rule over the yellow area, right? And then the Scarecrow was left in charge of the Emerald City by the Wizard of Oz. So he gets to go back. If Dorothy should get home to Kansas, he gets to go back and rule over the Emerald City. So they're both sort of in charge of their own lands. And now we've heard the lion say many times before that he did not want to live in a home anymore or a castle. He wanted to be in the forest, in the jungle. So in this chapter, we see that he now gets to be king of this forest that that they're passing through on the way to the south. So all three of our characters have become leaders in this story. So it was by good fortune that Dorothy found them on her journey, and now they're going to become the leaders of the Land of Oz. So when we return, we only have 3 chapters left of The Wizard of Oz, and we're going to finish them, obviously, this week. The next chapter, chapter 22, is called The Country of the Quadlings. And if you remember, the Quadlings are where Glinda, the Witch of the South, lives. So they are traveling to this red castle on our map to meet Glinda, and she rules over the Quadlings, just as the Wicked Witch of the West ruled over the Winkies, and the Wicked Witch of the East ruled over the Munchkins. So they each have a sort of people that they rule over. Little tricks about Oz, I guess. Okay, thank you, kindergartners, for tuning in, and come back again for the next chapter. We're almost done. All right, there's no place like home. Bye.